The parenting paradox. What research really tells us about raising kids. Introduction. The weight of parenting. Welcome, critical thinkers, to another eye-opening episode of The Social Lens, brought to you by Skoob. I'm your host, Beatrice Goodwin, and today we're taking a closer look at one of the most personal and pressure-filled topics of our time, parenting. But not the picture-perfect Instagram version. We're diving deep into the hidden tensions, quiet truths, and cultural contradictions that define how we raise children today. For generations, parenting has been guided by instinct, tradition, and community. But in the 21st century, it's become something else entirely. Something more demanding, more isolating, and in many ways, more uncertain. Behind the smiling photos and structured schedules lies a landscape of anxiety, guilt, and impossible expectations. In today's episode, we'll explore 5 revealing segments that peel back the layers of modern parenthood. First, the parenting paradox, how we've come to glorify childhood while pushing parents to the brink. Then, we'll dive into the myth of perfect experiences, questioning whether our curated childhoods actually shape our kids the way we hope. Next, we'll uncover the real predictors of success and how our current focus might be missing the mark. After that, we'll tackle the burden of blame, exploring what happens when things go wrong and who ends up carrying the weight. And finally, we'll ask the toughest question of all. What does a good parent really look like in a world that keeps changing the rules? So take a deep breath, parents and curious minds alike, because we're about to step beyond the bedtime stories and into the reality of raising the next generation. Once you hear this, you may never look at parenting or your own upbringing the same way again. Segment 1. The Sacred Child Syndrome. Let's start with a reality check about modern parenting that might make you uncomfortable. We've created what I call Sacred Child Syndrome, a cultural shift where childhood has become so sanctified that one adult, dedicating their entire existence to ensuring their child's perfect development, seems not just normal, but expected. Stephanie's story illustrates this perfectly. Her involvement with her children's development, combined with her physical and emotional connection to them, has redirected her erotic energy away from her relationship with her partner. This isn't a personal failing. It's a symptom of a broader cultural trend that's reached what many experts believe is peak absurdity. Think about this. Throughout history, the bond between mother and child was driven by survival necessity. But we've amplified this natural bond to unprecedented levels. Today, it's not extreme for one adult to function as a continuous, one-person child-rearing factory, ensuring the impeccable and painless development of their children. This is radically different from just a few generations ago, when children were viewed as economic contributors, and families hoped to raise a few children to adulthood out of many. Here's where it gets fascinating and problematic. In contemporary society, children no longer provide economic value. Instead, they offer meaning. We've created a perfect storm where American individualism emphasizes personal responsibility for outcomes, while simultaneously providing little public support for achieving the impossible standards we've set. Basic services like healthcare, daycare, and education are often inaccessible even to middle-class families. High-quality childcare can cost $30,000 a year, and rising. Meanwhile, grandparents live thousands of miles away, extended family support has vanished, and institutional assistance is minimal. We've essentially created isolated domestic units where parents are overburdened and struggling for air, space, time, and financial stability. But here's the cruel twist. This intense focus on child rearing happens alongside the pressures of modern romantic marriage. Parents today don't just aspire to be adequate caregivers, they want to be perfect parents while maintaining happy, fulfilling, sexually dynamic, and emotionally intimate relationships with their partners. We're essentially demanding that couples excel at 2 full-time jobs simultaneously. The result? Stephanie feels overwhelmed because she genuinely faces immense pressure from both intensive parenting and maintaining a fulfilling marriage. This pressure isn't imaginary. It's the collision of utopian ideals with the messy realities of daily life. Segment 2. The truth about what actually matters. Now that we've established how crazy modern parenting has become, let's dive into what research actually tells us about what influences children's development. Brace yourself. This might shatter some of your most cherished parenting beliefs. The Early Childhood Longitudinal Study analyzed thousands of children and identified 16 factors commonly believed to influence academic success. 8 of these factors showed strong correlation with test scores. The other 8? They don't appear to matter at all. Let me blow your mind with what doesn't correlate with academic performance. Your family being intact, whether parents are married or divorced, doesn't significantly impact early academic performance. This should be reassuring to the roughly 20 million American schoolchildren being raised by single parents. Recently moving to a better neighborhood, that expensive move to the suburbs for better schools? Moving can actually be disruptive, and a nicer house doesn't boost math scores any more than expensive sneakers make you jump higher. Whether mom worked between birth and kindergarten, all those guilt-ridden debates about staying home versus working, the data shows it doesn't correlate with academic outcomes. Attending Head Start programs, despite significant investment in these programs, they don't show up as a factor in test score correlation. Regular museum visits, those educational weekend trips you're dragging reluctant kids to, not correlated with test performance. Regular spanking, whether you spank or don't spank, doesn't show up in the academic data. Television watching frequency, the screen time battles might not be as crucial as you think. And here's the one that might shock you most. Reading to your child almost every day doesn't correlate with test scores. Wait, what? Before you throw this podcast device across the room, let me explain what does matter. Having highly educated parents. This isn't surprising, as families who value education tend to encourage it. And more importantly, higher IQ parents tend to get more education, and IQ is significantly hereditary. High socioeconomic status, this strongly correlates with success because it indicates higher IQs and education levels among parents. Mother being 30 or older at first child. This correlates with better outcomes, likely related to education and economic stability. Speaking English at home, this practical advantage shows up clearly in test data. Being adopted, interestingly, adopted children often perform better than average, possibly due to the selective nature of adoptive parents. Having parents involved in the PTA, this suggests engaged, education-focused parents. Having many books at home, notice this is about having books, not necessarily reading them together daily. Now here's the crucial insight. Many factors that correlate with success reflect what parents are rather than what parents do. The parent's education level, age, and socioeconomic status matter more than their specific parenting activities. This doesn't mean parenting actions don't matter at all, but it suggests that who you are as a person influences your child more than the specific techniques you employ. A highly educated parent creates an environment that values learning, regardless of whether they read Goodnight Moon every single night. Segment 3. The Relationship Foundation. Here's something that might surprise you. One of the most powerful things you can do for your child's well-being has nothing to do with them directly. It's about how you treat your partner. For years, research has consistently shown that happy families are grounded in stable, joyful relationships between partners. When parents experience significant stress and frequent conflicts, these negative emotions spill over into their interactions with children in devastating ways. Let me paint you a picture through Alice's experience. I am turning into this irritable, harsh person. I am so drained by what Frank and I are going through, I just don't have the energy for the kids. When my youngest started to cry about being scared to go to school, I shouted at him. I feel awful about this. I've become a harridan, and Frank is distant with everyone. We have to solve this, for everyone's sake. This scenario illustrates how marital conflict doesn't just affect the couple, it fundamentally changes the parent each partner becomes. When parents are frustrated and anxious, it adversely affects their approach to discipline, making them harsher and more inconsistent. But the damage extends far beyond discipline issues. When partners are trapped in unhappy relationships, they become emotionally unbalanced, making it nearly impossible to be truly present and engaged with their children. This emotional unavailability means children miss out on crucial nurturing and guidance precisely when they need it most. Psychologist Melissa Sturge Apple's research at the University of Rochester reveals something particularly concerning. When men emotionally withdraw from their wives, they often become emotionally unavailable to their children as well. It's as if emotional disconnection spreads through the family system like a virus. But here's the hopeful flip side. When partners feel securely attached to each other, they naturally create stable, nurturing environments for their children. Secure attachment between parents allows children to learn positive ways to manage their emotions and develop healthy connections with others. The scientific evidence is overwhelming. Securely attached, children tend to be happier, more socially adept, and more resilient under stress. The idea that cultivating a loving relationship with your partner is one of the best things you can do for your child isn't just sentiment. It's scientifically proven. Therapists have long emphasized that to be good parents, individuals need to either have experienced secure, loving childhoods themselves or seek counseling to address issues from less nurturing upbringings. But here's something encouraging. Even if your childhood left you with emotional difficulties, creating a healthier marriage can still transform you into a better parent. Research by psychologist Deborah Cohn from the University of Virginia shows that mothers who feel anxious and insecure about closeness can still be positive and loving to their children if they're married to responsive partners who offer secure connection. When partners love and support each other well, they naturally become better parents together. This means that working on your relationship isn't selfish. It's one of the most generous gifts you can give your children. Segment 4. Breaking the Cycle of Validation. Now let's dive into one of the most profound aspects of parent-child dynamics, how the gaps and gifts in our upbringing shape not just who we become, but how we love others. I want to share a story that illustrates this beautifully. A monk reflecting on his childhood realized that despite his mother's abundant love, which provided him with the foundation to extend love and compassion to others, there were notable gaps in his upbringing. His parents never attended his rugby matches, for instance. This absence created a deep need for validation that followed him well into adulthood. During his school years, he desperately wanted friends to perceive him as strong and tough because he craved the support and recognition he didn't receive at home. Even after becoming a monk, this longing for validation lingered. But through deep reflection, he made a significant realization. Even when he received the validation he yearned for, it never truly satisfied him. Authentic, positive feedback from others failed to fill the void within him. This led to a profound insight. Others often struggle to fully appreciate the efforts we make to achieve good results. Initially, we seek validation from those closest to us. When that proves insufficient, we widen our search, hoping to find it in everyone. Ultimately, we discover that true validation must come from within ourselves. Here's what's fascinating about this process. The gaps our parents left inadvertently teach us invaluable lessons about finding contentment within ourselves. But to benefit from these lessons, we need to understand both the gifts and gaps our parents provided and how they continue to influence our relationships. Consider this example. If your parents always gave you special gifts on your birthday, you might expect tangible presents from your partner. But if your partner's family favored quality time as birthday gifts, they might prefer giving experiences rather than objects. Neither approach is wrong, but awareness of these different patterns allows couples to communicate their needs better and adapt to each other's preferences. Each of us responds differently to childhood gifts and gaps. Observing our parents' arguments might lead us to be argumentative as adults, or we might heal from those memories and consciously choose different behaviors. We might even become skilled at helping others resolve conflicts. If we grew up in volatile households, we might strive for constant peace, sometimes at the expense of expressing our true feelings. The key insight here is that karma offers us a range of responses to our upbringing. The goal isn't to classify our choices as right or wrong, but to examine how we've used our experiences to benefit our relationships and identify where unconscious patterns persist. For example, if your father was inconsiderate, you might find yourself dating a series of inconsiderate partners until you learn the lesson and choose someone kind and considerate. This is the essence of learning from our karmic patterns. Many of us feel our upbringing was less than ideal. This might range from basic needs not being met to missing opportunities that could have provided better life starts. Even when parents offer encouragement and support confidence, they cannot provide us with perfectly developed psyches ready for all of life's challenges. Many parents themselves struggle with self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-care, making it difficult to impart these qualities while managing their own challenges. But here's the liberating truth. We are not doomed by our upbringing. Too often, we focus on what our parents should have done differently rather than what we can do now. Regardless of how imperfect our initial circumstances were, we can learn from our experiences to guide us into the relationships we desire. Segment 5. The real question of responsibility. This brings us to perhaps the most controversial question in all of parenting. When adult children struggle with life outcomes, should we blame the parents? This question sits at the heart of intense cultural debates. Critics argue that when we emphasize factors beyond parental control, like genetics, peer influence, and broader social systems, we're absolving parents of responsibility. They worry that if children turn out poorly, parents can simply claim it's not their fault. But there's a flip side to this argument that's equally important. If we hold parents entirely responsible for outcomes, we're also telling adults that their life struggles are entirely their parents' fault. This perspective can trap people in victim mentality, preventing them from taking ownership of their own growth and healing. The truth, as usual, is more nuanced. Research liberates mothers from superficial theories that hold them accountable for every mishap that befalls their children. It frees parents from judgmental individuals who make them feel guilty for working outside the home or missing a reading of Goodnight Moon. Instead, it emphasizes the collective responsibility we all share for the health of neighborhoods and the culture that influences peer groups. But this doesn't mean parental treatment is irrelevant. Parents often worry about whether it matters how they treat their children, and the answer is unequivocally yes, but for different reasons than you might think. First, parents have significant influence over their children's immediate happiness and daily experience. Child rearing is fundamentally an ethical duty. It's unacceptable for parents to beat, humiliate, deprive, or neglect their children because such actions are inherently wrong, given the power imbalance between strong adults and helpless children. As one expert notes, we may not hold their tomorrows in our hands, but we surely hold their todays, and we have the power to make their todays very miserable. Second, parents and children share a basic human relationship that matters beyond developmental outcomes. No one questions whether it matters how you treat your spouse, despite understanding that you cannot fundamentally change your partner's personality. Husbands and wives should be kind to each other not to mold personalities, but to foster deep, satisfying relationships. The same principle applies to parent-child relationships. The way one person treats another affects the quality of their relationship throughout life. The balance of power shifts over time, and children, armed with memories of their upbringing, have increasing influence over their interactions with aging parents. Here's some practical wisdom. If you don't think the moral imperative is a good enough reason to be nice to your kid, try this one. Be nice to your kid when he's young, so that he will be nice to you when you're old. Consider this. There are well-functioning adults who still feel intense anger when recounting childhood cruelties from their parents. Conversely, others become emotional recalling acts of kindness or sacrifices made for their happiness, often ones the parents have long forgotten. Parents should treat their children well if for no other reason than to allow them to grow up with positive memories of their relationship. This isn't about controlling outcomes, it's about the fundamental quality of human connection. Conclusion: embracing the paradox. So, where does this leave us in our parenting journey? We've discovered that modern parenting has created unprecedented pressure by sanctifying childhood while providing inadequate support systems. We've learned that many of our most cherished parenting activities don't correlate with academic success, while factors reflecting who we are matter more than specific things we do. We've seen how the quality of the parental relationship profoundly affects children's emotional well-being. We've explored how childhood gaps and gifts continue shaping our adult relationships. And we've grappled with the complex question of ultimate responsibility for life outcomes. The paradox of modern parenting is this: we have more information about child development than any generation in history, yet we're more anxious about parenting than ever before. We're simultaneously over-controlling aspects that don't matter much while under-investing in what actually makes the biggest difference. Now, here's what I want you to take away from today's journey. Your relationship with your partner is one of the most powerful gifts you can give your children. Work on that connection not as a luxury, but as a necessity for family well-being. Focus less on perfect parenting activities and more on becoming the kind of person you want your child to learn from. Your education, emotional stability, and values matter more than whether you read bedtime stories every single night. Understand that your childhood experiences, both gifts and gaps, continue influencing your relationships. Use this awareness to make conscious choices rather than unconscious repetitions. Treat your children with kindness and respect, not because it will guarantee specific outcomes, but because it's the right thing to do and because it builds the foundation for a lifelong relationship. Release yourself from the impossible burden of controlling your child's entire future while taking full responsibility for the quality of your daily interactions with them. The goal isn't perfect parenting. It's conscious, connected, authentic parenting that acknowledges both our power and our limitations. We hold our children's todays in our hands, and that's both enough and everything. That's all for today's deep dive into the pressures, paradoxes, and perceptions shaping modern parenting. If you want to know more about questions like, does conflicting advice create parenting challenges? Does guilt play a role in effective parenting? Are adaptive parenting styles effective in shaping child development? Are modern fathers more evolved in parenting? And much more, download the Skoob app on the App Store or Google Play to unlock the full experience. Thank you for joining me on this honest and eye-opening journey into the realities of raising children in today's world. Remember, parenting isn't about perfection, it's about perspective. And sometimes, the best thing we can do is unlearn what we've been taught. Until next time, I'm your host, Beatrice Goodwin, and this has been The Social Lens by Skoob. Keep asking questions, keep challenging the norm, and most importantly, give yourself some grace. Theme music fades out.